Hey, what's up, YouTube? It's me, Whiskey Hotel, and you're looking at a Capture the Flag game on Stadium. I've been playing a lot of CTF since I've gone back to Black Ops. It's probably my favorite game type on Black Ops, which is a shame because I find it unplayable on Modern Warfare 3. There's no perk setup for Capture the Flag in Modern Warfare 3, and there's really no incentive to not camp in it. So it's a broken game type in my opinion. But this game's actually from quite a while ago. I had kind of been saving it almost. Like, I thought it was really good at one point. But since rewatching it in the editing process, I don't actually think it's that good anymore. I mean, it's still pretty good, but you know, I'm a much better player now, and I watched this and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking? And that is perfectly shown by the Silence Galil and the Ghost Pro, neither of which I run on CTF anymore. But anyway, what I really want to talk about is I just kind of want to let you in on something about me and my philosophical outlook on life that I have recently discovered. And that outlook is that I'm an existentialist. I follow existentialism, and I just want to tell you what that means and how I discovered that that's what I am. And to start off, I'll say that, like, I guess I've always had like original ideas and thoughts, and I have viewed the world differently, and I've always kind of known this, but I guess I didn't really care. It wasn't like a defining characteristic of myself, and people had always told me that my whole life. Like, they would say, like, oh, you have like an interesting opinion on, you know, humanity and like a different outlook on life, and I would always kind of blow it off because it didn't really mean anything to me when other people would say it. But recently I met a guy named Doro, or not recently, I met him when I got my current job about a year ago, and Doro's an interesting guy. He used to be a language teacher in high school. He was a teacher for however many years. He can speak Swiss, French, and English. He can also stumble his way through German and Italian conversations, which linguistics is always something that I've admired in other people. I personally don't have that, so he's very interesting. He spent a good portion of his life living in France and Switzerland, which is also really appealing to me. He's just kind of the guy that demands respect, or he doesn't actually demand it, you know, it's just you naturally give it to him just because he's an intelligent guy and he's a nice guy and easy to talk to. And throughout talking to him when I first got this job, he started to do the same thing. He would just point out, oh yeah, you know, that's an interesting take on it, or you have unique opinions about the world and stuff. But then he kind of expanded on it. He didn't leave it like that. He went as far to point out that a lot of my opinions and attitudes about life are in line with a philosophy called existentialism. And now I'll do my best to outline some points that coincide with existentialism and explain like how they apply to my life. But before I do that, I'd like to say that existentialism, I have a really hard time defining it. Like, because I've accidentally been one my whole life, actually putting a definition to it is really difficult for me. And it's also difficult because it, as a philosophy, depends a lot on the individual experiences of the person. So the way I experience it could be totally different than the way someone else experiences it. But it has common points throughout, which I'll try and get into here. And the first, like, all-encompassing statement of existentialism is that existence precedes essence. The general attitude is that there's no definition or purpose for humans. Through our own consciousness, we determine a meaning to life. I said that really weird, sorry. I was reading it, I took notes. And what this means is that when we're born, we don't have a purpose. Like, there's no goal the minute we're born, and there's no all-encompassing goal for humanity itself. The goal of an existentialist is to find a role to play in the society, or to be valuable in some way, to have some defining feature that you can establish yourself within the society, the human race, the universe, what have you. And it's because of this constant need or desire to have a role in society that we tend to examine ourselves to a point of neuroses, and you're constantly examining how you are affecting the world, or how the world perceives you, and how you perceive the world in return. And this is an interesting thing. Existentialists tend to be more observant, pick up on cues that maybe other people choose to ignore. People watching is a good word for it, like just watching social interaction and being able to comment on the ridiculousness of it all. And the end goal, of course, of an existentialist is to find oneself and a role to play in society, some sort of authenticity to the world. Another idea is the absurd, and this is a fundamental concept that says that the world itself has no meaning other than what we give to it. The goal, of course, as I said earlier, is to find a role to play within society. In other words, giving meaning to your life, finding a meaning for your life, and creating your own existence and happiness. This almost directly conflicts with karmic thinking, in which they tend to think that good things happen to good people and bad things happen to bad people. We don't really regard that, because the world is so chaotic and anything can happen to anyone at any time. And any one of those events could send anyone's lives into a downturn and wreck who they are as a person, because we all depend on the authenticity that we've created, which can collapse at any time. Another theme is called existential angst, in which there's almost a fear to make a decision because we experience absolute freedom. Because we make decisions in an absolutely free environment, those decisions that we make say a lot about us as a person. Because there's no outside forces on the decisions that we make, those decisions are made entirely from our own personality. So if you examine those decisions, you can examine our personality. That might have been really redundant sounding, but hopefully that made sense. A common analogy with this is that there's a man standing on a cliff, and he's looking over the cliff, and he knows that if he jumps, he will die. But he also realizes that there's nothing stopping him from jumping over the cliff. And what this is called is that it's the dizziness of freedom, I believe that's what it's called, in which in one circumstance is defined by the fear of dying, but the other circumstance is defined by the freedom of doing whatever you want. And it's really confusing. I'm not really sure how to accurately explain how that applies to my life, because I think it'll get really confusing, but it makes sense to me. There's nothing that determines what you should do, and it's because of that it's hard to make any concrete decisions, at least for me, and I believe for other existentialists. And the final thing is despair. Existentialists as a group tend to experience despair just like everyone else. But in the way it differs is that even in the happiest moments of an existentialist's life, there tends to be an underlying despair. Because so much of our existence depends on the role that we have created, or the authenticity that we've created, that in itself can collapse at any time due to the absurdity of the world. So if you find a role as a teacher, for example, and the role you have created for yourself is to help children, teach children, create the minds of the future, and then you lose your job as a teacher, because that defined you in a great way, you can go into a free fall of despair because your identity no longer exists. And it's also, I don't tend to experience it in that way because I'm a very confident person in myself, I have outlined myself a plan in which I should be able to attain my goals and authenticity, so I don't experience despair when I don't achieve them, because I believe I've set out a good plan. Where I do experience despair is almost for humanity in itself. Like, for example, when I go to Walmart and I'm shopping, and as I'm leaving, I notice that there are shopping carts all over that no one bothered to put away. That in itself really makes me question the human race, and I'll explain. If we as a group, as a species, cannot agree to put forth the effort to walk 50 feet to put a cart away, how the fuck are we supposed to accomplish anything? Even something as simple as that, when I see that people neglect to do so, makes me think that humanity has no hope. And that's, the despair is what Doro has helped me with the most. It's crucial that I have someone to consult in these moments of despair, someone that has gone through it, because he's an existentialist himself, and he has about 40 years experience on me in how to deal with it. And I think this is a crucial thing if you yourself find that you are an existentialist, because without this you are left to your own despair, and nothing good can come from that. So I'd like to thank Doro publicly, and just like to stress the importance of a role model. Even if you're not an existentialist, it is very helpful for you to find someone that thinks along the same lines as you and is able to help you in moments that you may need it. I talked a little long, hopefully that doesn't bother you, but thank you for watching my video. Maybe I'll see you next time. Later, dudes.